think we're live. Hey, welcome
Yeah.
everybody. We are live with three awesome sports card collectors. They put my collection to shame for sure. Let's go around the horn and let's introduce yourselves, starting with Jason.
Yeah. I am Jason. Uh, I collected when I was younger. I got back into it around 2015. I collect pretty much everything football. I mean, every sport. Um, yeah. um, yeah.
So you're like across the board, right? You're the four major sports and then boxing and other sports too.
Everything.
Everything.
I mean, I mean, I do, but everything is like planned out, and everything is specific players, specific cards, and everything else. So I mean, I try to keep it small, but you know, I mean, shoot, there's a lot of
So
cool cards out there, so it's hard to do that sometimes.
yeah, so you go for like the kind of the faces of the sport, right? Historical significance, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, like everybody else, rookies, but also sometimes I don't like the rookies, so I would, try to get, I mean, like another, uh, example of like the player, so to speak. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Hey Bart, let's hear about you.
Hey, Bart from Bart's Cards. Much the same to Jason. I collect all big of the four big sports. I've tried boxing a couple of times, but I can't find a reasonable checklist to go after or anything like that. But the other four sports really go after big time 49ers. But I was very aggressive in my 49ers collecting in the early years, so I don't have as many pickups to make nowadays because kind of did all of those, but still keep an eye on those things and pretty have. I sit on a large pile of cards from that collection. I've been collecting my whole life, but obviously rode the roller coaster of how heavy based on life timelines and things as everybody else has. But lots of Hall of Fame rookies. Yeah, that's about it. Love PSA slabs. Protection and it's more liquid asset. So if you can put that
So
much money into it, you kind of do that.
you like the PSA registry, right? If I remember correctly.
Very big into the registry. Yeah, built lots and lots of sets for those things, and interact with. I mean, man, they don't tend to the registry nearly as much as they should nowadays. But yeah, I'm still a big fan. I like the competition of it as well as just the collecting by myself part.
Yeah, I hear you. I get it. Justin, last but certainly not least.
What's up, Jeremy? What's up, guys? I'm Justin. This is, I think, my second time going on here with Jeremy. First time meeting Bart, but long time watcher of your channel. And we may talk a little bit about the Football Card Hall of Fame, which I'm a huge fan of as well, that I know you do. Jason and I actually have connected before on another channel. So, yeah, kind of good to be with you guys tonight. I do mostly vintage football. My collection's probably, I would say, somewhere in the neighborhood of 70% vintage football, about 20% more modern football, which is a lot of 90s stuff and early 2000s, then about 10% vintage boxing, which I got into with a little assist from Jason about a year ago at this time. Hall of Fame rookies are kind of my deal, and other iconic cards or cards that I perceive to be iconic anyway in vintage football and boxing. When I get into the 90s football stuff, it's a lot of stuff from when I was a kid. Unfortunately for me, most of the time I'm a lifelong Lions fan, so a lot of Barry Sanders cards mixed in there, Calvin Johnson, Herman Moore, Chris Spielman, some of those dudes. So, but yeah, that's kind of how I collect. And yeah, looking forward to talking about it and showing some cardboard tonight.
Awesome. I'm going to just jump right into it. I have a question for all of you. How distracted do you guys get? Are you guys really focused on what you go after, or are you like me where you see a squirrel and hurt your neck because you see something else you like? 'Cause I do that all the time.
Wow. I mean, I'm probably the least focused of the bunch, so I'll start with the squirrel. By the way, we already got some people jumping in the chat, so welcome to everybody who's joining. That's pretty awesome to see some people in there. So it's so funny because in talking to Jason, when I first kind of engaged him on Instagram, he has this collection across sports, and my perception of people who collected that way was always that they, it's impossible to be focused and do that. But yet when I was talking to Jason, I realized, and he can talk about this for himself though, he's actually very focused across sports, as to where with me, I'm more narrow in what I collect. But man, I can get very distracted within those sports. I am very capable in a given week from saying, you know what, I'm going after a 1950 Joe Paterno felt back, which is high up on my list, to, oh, but there's this, Barry Sanders, 1997 chrome refractor that I want. And, oh, wait a minute, here's a Jack Johnson card over here. Maybe that's what I'm going after now. So I think I keep overall focused with what I go after. But in the moment, my day-to-day, if you ask me, oh, what's your big card you're targeting? Could be different today, tomorrow, and the next day, because I bounce around a bit. But I don't let that bother me, because my criteria always is, am I having fun with this? For me, it's sometimes fun to jump around a little bit. It's fun to see something and chase the squirrel a bit. So as long as I'm enjoying it, I don't get too worked up about it, but I will certainly admit to being a hopeless squirrel chaser when it comes to collecting.
And I'm complete opposite. I'm the list guy, and like literally, again, I'm in all sports pretty much, but everything is like specific people. But when I'm locked in, I'm locked in. So like I'm also a huge San Francisco guy and everything else. But at the present time, I'm doing like the baseball. So like I have a list. I don't even look at anything else. And that's how I try to like lock in. I mean, because if I was actually, trying to do everything at the same time, it'd probably be ugly. So I'll go through a list of like 7, 8 players of a sport. And then once I, cross them all out, okay, look at the room. Okay, I got that done. What else is got to be worked on? Okay, football 90s or whatever it is. So like me personally, when I'm on something, that's all that I see. And it's because, yeah, like if I was looking for everything at the same time, I'd probably be, I don't know, a hot mess. So it's just easier for me to do that. You know what I mean?
I collect just like Justin. I will say Jason's right. He does stay that focused, but he can only do that because he has zero patience. And so he's focused. He makes
very guilty of that.
He cannot think of any other card until that list is exhausted. So he harassing every seller of the card so he can get it. He's not waiting for the next auction, or maybe 3 weeks from now, he's like, I gotta have it now. Which is always fun to push him into the patience lanes. But I collect just like you said, Justin. I am focused in the broad sense, because I'm going to be a lifelong collector, and I know it. So I kind of have the big list out there. I see the squirrel, and the squirrel will teach me or tell me to put something on my list, but I just follow the deals as best I can. But I'm always collecting so much that it's easy. Like, all right, that wasn't a deal, and something else on my never-ending list will probably be up for sale, or good auction or something like that. And so I just bounce from auction to auction. So when I pick up cards, I've probably been losing auctions on that card for however many years, because I've just been stingy with how much I wanted to pay for it or something. Every once in a while, obviously if you're getting closer to finishing a set registry or something like that. And then sometimes when I collect, if you pick up certain key pieces, and then, well, if I'm going to have, this basketball card, in order to connect that vintage player with somebody from the more modern era, I need somebody in between or something. Like, you can't have a bunch of 50s basketball cards and then just jump right to 1986 or something, right? You got to tease something in there. So sometimes I put a little bit extra focus just to round out the collection in the moment. but realistically, I just follow the deals. So I'm all over the place, and I like to chase the squirrel part because that's what keeps it interesting and fun. I don't want it to turn into the grind of I'm just going regimented down by any means.
Yeah, I totally squirreled before we got on here. I threw a couple out on. I'm like, God, this is a good deal if I get it for this, and I don't have it yet. So let's just throw it out there and see what happens. I do that all the time. I have an addiction to player runs. That's my big Achilles heel.
Yeah, so I guess like I'm like the odd man out.
Jason's
And like
the
Bart
odd
said,
man.
I have zero patience. I mean, I set like a goal, and it's go time. Literally, I expanded the like the baseball collection from one of like the displays into about 1 3/4, and I've already knocked out 70% of the cards that I needed. So yeah, I'm just very, OCD. Yeah. So I am guilty of that for sure.
I wish I had some of that. I really do. So, sticking to football for right now, if you were to pick, let's say, an underappreciated player from each decade, from the 50s to the 80s, starting with the 50s, who do you think is greatly underappreciated? 50s.
Bro, 50.
It's a huge list.
Okay.
Yeah, Norm
For
Norm
sure.
Brockman.
Dutchman.
There were so many big terms back in the 50s, and that was right when it was happening and things like that. So, but I think really Van Brocklin love because there aren't any damn Rams fans out there.
Yeah.
And that, you need a fan base to perpetuate, and the team
That's a good point.
bounced forth and really was just dead in the water for a couple of decades. There's just you just don't find them, right? You just don't walk around and see, you might see a Marshall Faulk jersey running around every once in a while for the Rams, but that's mostly to the player and not the team. And so I just don't think he gets much love because of that. But he was a big arm for his day, 550 yards, 54 yards passing in a game, just ridiculous type stuff. And then,
Still a record too, right?
I think so.
a couple years ago. I know a bunch of people got close recently. I want to say somebody just topped it a couple years ago, but if not, yes.
Still, back when that was done, it was unheard of.
So can I was telling all you guys before we jumped on live, I never really know what direction things are going to go in. So I have like 50 cards down here. So I'm going to cheat and find an excuse to show some of them. This was not my answer, but I noticed Orlando, who is obviously an amazing football collector, said Johnny U. So that gives me an excuse to show my Johnny U that I brought down. I love that card. And yeah, I think relative to his place, where he should be valued as an athlete in general, I think that's a good point that Orlando makes. But the guy that I'm going to go with, so I'm going to show one underrated player and one card that I think should get more love. My player, I'm going to be a Lions homer here and go with Night Train Lane. Night Train Lane is one of the greatest defensive players in the history of the NFL. Played most of this rookie card here, this 57s from the Chicago Cardinals, played most of his career with the Lions. He is the reason they outlined the clothesline tackle. Saw a great quote from him once where some reporter had asked him, why do you use the clothesline? He's like, well, if I go low, they might fall forward. If I go at the clothesline, they're just going to fall backwards. So, you got to love that sort of mentality from a corner. But I think Night Train Lane is right up there in terms of all-time greatest defensive players in the NFL. So yeah, I'm a big fan of that one. And I'm going to be a super Lions homer here. Like I said, I got the hat on and everything, but this 1952 Bowman Large Yale Larry rookie, I think this card should get more love because I just think, I love this 52 Bowman Large set. This is not my favorite card from the set, but I think it's my favorite card in terms of aesthetics. I think the colors on it pop, the expression on his face, it's just very descriptive. And, I think I picked this up for about $35 or something like that a few years ago. It's like, for such a beautiful card of a Hall of Famer, I feel like it's just really kind of does not get talked about. And I know that set has some heavy hitters in it, but I think it should get more love than it does. So that is my my answer, that with a great deal of cheating thrown in there.
Night Train Lane's a good pick.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I love Night Train, man. I think he really just does not get the love he deserves in terms of looking down that list of all-time great NFL defensive players.
I think that was
So
12 games too, or something.
What's that?
yeah.
12 games, I think. 14 picks. It's still the record.
Still the record for
Exactly.
season. Yeah.
Yeah, legend. San Francisco is my team, so I have to go with Y.A. Tittle.
Oh, there you go.
Oh,
A
you're bringing
really
out the
bad
big
player
man.
there. It's like the bazooka one. He was just great quarterback, you know. He didn't ever win like the big game, but just overall, like a great player. And just like the picture of him when he played with like the Giants and he lost, and like he's in like the mud and he's bleeding and everything.
Yeah.
Like you gotta love like a player like that. You know what I mean? He gave it all. So YA is my choice.
So
That's an awesome choice.
I had my new exhibits tittle all queued up for this segment, but I'm going to pivot. I'm gonna go with, let's see,
Hamlin.
Oh, nice.
Sweet deal.
Yeah. You know how much I love that card too, so I am all in on that choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's beautiful.
First African American in the Hall of Fame.
Yep. And his story is really cool too. He's Coast Guard war hero. I think he saved 2 people's lives or something like that. So, I mean, just an awesome story.
yeah, and he did. I think he's still second career interceptions behind Paul Krause, right?
Yeah.
And he did all that in the 50s when passing, unless you were a Los Angeles Ram or I don't know, Bobby Lane. You know, passing was still like a last ditch effort thing, right, in the game.
Mhm.
So him holding that record, or second to Paul Krause, still, it's, in context, it's pretty impressive. You know, on top of everything else he was, known for.
We got a couple great votes in the chat. Oops.
They'd use some analytics for just at least once or twice that I realized to stop throwing to a couple of those guys that just pick off absolutely everything.
Yeah.
Revis Island, wouldn't have been a thing back then. He would have just had 100 picks probably in his career or something.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
Yep.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
We got some good choices in the chat too. Somebody went Joe Schmidt, which I love.
Yeah, I saw that.
56 cards, one of my favorites. And I think somebody else said Sammy Baugh, which is, I feel like Jeremy and I, every time we speak, we talk about Sammy Baugh. So that's,
Yeah, speak of Sammy Baugh.
Sammy Baugh,
Shoot, Sammy Baugh. Well, once again, like the glare. 1952 large. Yeah, Sammy Baugh, he was, offense and also like the defensive side too. He led like the league in interceptions.
Up until recently,
also.
I think he had the highest career punting average.
Yeah,
I think Shane Lecter ended up beating him, but
yeah.
all right, let's roll to the 60s. What's the chat got? Let's see, Joe Schmidt was said. Tittle.
we got
Unitas.
We got some discussion about the 35 Newt Rockne Chickle card in there for, I'm okay going down that rabbit hole too, because this was my latest pickup.
What, Justin? You're just trying to give excuses to show your cards at this point.
Unapologetically. I brought 50 cards down.
Technically, that isn't 1950s. I'm just saying. I can pull out the Jim Thorpe if you want me to, too.
Give the people what they want in the chat. That's all I'm saying. I'm a man of the people.
Hey. Yeah. Okay. 1960s.
Yeah, let's roll to the 60s.
I'd say anybody's safe in the AFL because AFL just doesn't get a whole lot of love on that side.
Yeah,
I'm not
I agree.
any means, but Dawson's and Allworths and stuff.
There.
I thought you said you weren't going to show those.
He's been talking about showing that card for 2 weeks. There was no way Dell wasn't coming out.
Del Shopper should be in the Hall of Fame. I'm telling you.
Well,
I agree with that. I agree
I'll
with that.
take your Dell and I'll up you with a Bambi. Lance Allworth. There you go.
That's awesome. That's one of my all-time
Receiver to
favorite cards.
receiver.
That Allworth is a card that every year. Oh, wait. Where's my? I know I've got.
Here we go.
There we go. There we go.
There we go. All right, Bart. Come on, grab yours too.
Handy. I have one, but it's not handy.
It's in a box, huh?
All my stuff from a card room down in the basement. So I put pictures up a couple of minutes ago. I got
trying to put the backdrop so it doesn't look like a jail cell in there.
Every year, that Allworth, Bart, is a card where when it's on the ballot for the Football Card Hall of Fame, I'm stunned when it doesn't get more votes.
Yeah,
I do not understand that because I feel like for us really in that vintage football hobby, to me, that was a huge card. When I picked that one up, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Same here.
Yeah.
that too.
Look, guys.
I don't know why it doesn't get in love. It's the good color, fancy, great. I don't know why that Allworth doesn't get more love all the way around.
Yeah.
Yeah, and statistically, you look at his numbers, he was Jerry Rice in the 60s. Like, that's what he was.
I agree.
Somebody mentioned Nick Bonacani. I like that, too.
Yeah, I saw that too. Melissa mentioned that. That's a good call.
The Dolphins are a fan out there somewhere. Just putting in the fat guy football out there. That's what
I.
No love.
Yeah. So we started the AFL ball rolling. I'm going to throw one out here too. Bobby Bell.
Yeah.
Bobby Bell was another fantastic defensive player. And just, extremely underrated and underappreciated. Top 100 player of all time. And I love this 64 top set. I think this is just a really nice set. Some of these AFL, there you go. It's a great card. I think it's a great card. It's a great pose, good color of an all-time great player who, I mean, quite frankly, I knew who he was, but before getting back in the hobby, I didn't know much about him. So I think underrated as a player and as a card and kind of as a set too. I think because it, comes right in that time where you have a couple big sets that come out in the years after, the 65 tops, the 66 Philly. But man, I'm a fan of 64 tops and this card in particular.
I will say this, I'm not exactly prepared to go decade to decade, so you guys are going to have to show majority of the cards.
That's it.
But I do have one other 1960s cards, and it's Unitas, who isn't underrated too much, but 1961 Flair.
Nice.
I mean, dude, he looks like a badass right there. You know
That's
what I mean?
Card,
Yeah, shoot. I love this one. And why not throw Jim Brown in there too? Come on.
That's a great set.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love 61 Flair.
Yeah. I love that set too.
out. So I Niners QB here.
Oh, there we go.
1970 NFL MVP. This is a PSA 10.
Ooh,
Big money.
Bart's flexing now.
Well, Pop one.
Pop Bart.
That's a beautiful
What is
card. So Jeremy, you've made another mistake here. You said in the chat, no Lynn Dawson's mentioned yet. There we go. We'll show the Lynn Dawson.
There you go. I'll join you. I'll join you on that one.
I saw a picture on Instagram showing Tom Brady drinking his kale shakes at halftime with a picture of Len Dawson smoking a cigarette on the bench during the Super Bowl next to him. It was just hilarious how different.
Yep. It was different back then.
Yeah.
No, those are some nice cards.
Mine was easy. I'm
Carl.
And I
Yeah,
Carl Lewis
awesome.
is like the most underrated wide receiver of all time. I really do. Just
Yep,
get
awesome.
no love. Probably because he was a Brown and a Dolphin. But
They still got him in first ballot though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Voters knew.
voters,
His rookie's extremely cheap. You can get that in mid-grade for very inexpensive. And there was somebody else in the chat too who cited Warfield, so that's a good choice. Somebody else said Charlie Taylor, another I think underrated wide receiver. That's a good choice as well. So I think another one you can make an argument for. I don't have his card out here in the 50 I brought. I don't have this one out here. But Otis Taylor. Otis Taylor's a guy that I think should certainly be in the Hall of Fame at this point. Chiefs legend at wide receiver as well. Every year he's one of my guys in the senior committee that I'm hoping nudges his way in, but no luck so far.
It's tough when they.
Okay, so we're doing 70s.
70s.
I don't have any 70s here down, so I have to look at the.
This is my idea, and I don't think I have any 70s cards out here.
So,
Alan Page.
what was that, Bart?
Alan Page, maybe.
Yeah, Alan Page.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Here, I got one that I'll throw out there again. I'm going to stick with the defensive players. I'm going with Willie Lanier. Willie Lanier was a stud middle linebacker, another top 100 player of all time. And actually, I did not know this till recently, but he was the first African-American to start at middle linebacker in the NFL. There had previously been outside linebackers, but he was the first African-American to start at middle linebacker in the NFL. So, and I'm a big fan of this card. I love 71 tops. It's probably my personal favorite set of the 70s. Orlando mentioned Mean Joe Green also in that 71 top set. Bradshaw's in there. Some other great cards.
Charlie Sanders.
What was that, Bart?
That's a bold statement. 71 is your favorite?
That's my favorite 70 set. It absolutely is. I like the design. I mean, I know the design is not for everyone. It's a little bit cartoony and stuff, but I think it's fun. I think there's something about it that, I don't know, that I connect with. And I think there's some heavy hitters in there between.
Oh, yeah. Bradshaw, Joe Green's in there.
And I like the Lanier and Charlie Sanders more than other people probably do.
Charlie Sanders at?
I didn't bring Charlie out. Charlie, I left him in the room. What would you say your favorite set of the 70s is? I'm curious.
I didn't quite catch you said 70s at the first, and so I was like really taken aback.
No, 70s. Yeah, just 70s. No.
I am not that big of a fan of any of the 70s sets per se. There are some cards that are iconic that go well with design, but in large order, the sets themselves aren't too aesthetic compared.
I agree.
So I don't know if I could pick one of any of them, to be honest with you, and say that's the one. Not a fan of the designs at large, I guess.
I think I feel the same way because, quite honestly, 71 tops is my favorite set of the 70s, but doesn't crack my top 10 all-time sets. So, yeah, I'm a big
70s are kind of booty for card designs.
Yeah, I feel about baseball as well. 70s is compared to some other decades and stuff, it's rough.
Yeah, mine's probably 77 if I had to pick one. It'd be the 77. But
if you say baseball, is it 75 with the loud colors?
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the baseball 75. If you're talking about football, probably either 71 or 72 probably. And that's just, because of like the big cards in like the sets. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we got lucky with 72, and some of the nice cards are vertical because there's a lot of horizontal cards that don't look too fantastic.
Yeah, somebody mentioned in the chat Fran Tarkenton, which I have to agree with that too.
It's a good pick.
Yeah.
And then Steve Largent in the 70s, absolutely.
He sneaks in there. Wasn't he 77?
77.
Yep.
Yeah, 77.
I'd add Earl Campbell.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Earl Campbell.
It's his only card, too. Or only your cards.
Yeah. Okay. 1980s?
Yeah, roll with it.
Hey, I mean, I'm a San Fran guy, and I grew up, and this guy was my hero. Everybody shows the 81 tops Joe Montana rookie. We got the 81 MSA Joe Montana rookie.
That is
I got
cool.
this from the man himself, Bart. So
Wow.
him with the assist
I have one
on
of those.
this one.
That's awesome. I've never seen one of those before.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I brought one 80s card, so I'll see your Montana.
Nice.
PSA 10, black borders. I've always liked
Awesome.
and
Yeah,
that's
shoot.
a lot because I don't like horizontal cards much.
I only brought one 80s card out, and I don't know. I must not have been thinking thematically when I did it. I must have just seen this card and thought, hey, I have to find an excuse to show it somehow. Hardly underrated, but we can't have a live stream with Lions guy not showing the 89 score Barry Sanders. That is.
Hey,
There
I
you
got
go.
you on that. Barry Sanders signed.
I see that. That is.
I
fantastic.
like the pro set is when I jumped into the hobby 88 89. So this set has a special place.
I love that card. Yeah, anything Barry, anything signed Barry, I am all in on that. For so many years, he was all we had to be proud of as Lions fans. You guys are spoiled as Niners fans. You had all those great teams in the 80s.
It was
and
a
90s.
great time, man.
I mean, for us, it was like we suck, but at least we have Barry Sanders to watch on Sundays. He's
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
do something cool. So
We did go through it. We threw up a decade of duds in the early 2000s, but
Oh,
You
it
did.
was bad.
did not
Yeah.
have the longevity of fans.
It was pretty bad back then.
I mean, my card, I don't own it, but it's for me, it's Lawrence Taylor,
Mm.
the 82 top Lawrence Taylor. That would be mine.
Under
Followed by probably the 86 tops, Gary Rice.
Yeah.
somebody threw Ronnie Lott out there in the chat,
Yep.
Mark, and I think that's a great pick. I love
Right up
Ronnie
there,
Lott.
too.
That's the hard part, right? With the Niners, it was like, the Lions were so bad that it was fun to watch those Niners teams in the playoffs. Niners and Bills, where they were fun teams for me to watch as a kid because you weren't watching many Lions games come January, so you had to latch on to somebody.
Oh yeah, Ronnie Lott. He was kind of built kind of differently. He was it like his pinky? He ended up he like amputated his finger mid game to keep playing. They don't have guys like that no more.
That's a boss move.
he's probably one of the last of the old school too, Ronnie Lott.
Yeah, I think so. Too.
Yeah, I think so too.
Concussion or bust type hitting,
I saw a video of clips of him on Instagram not long ago, and it went through and I looked at every one of those hits in like a 2-minute clip. I'm like, every one of those is illegal now. There's not a single hit there that would not get him thrown out of the game. But yeah, man, he was fun to watch. I have good memories watching him as a kid.
I'd love to
Here.
hear somebody bring back those giant shoulder pads and start laying the boom again.
Yeah, the cowboy collars.
Get a neck roll going, just big old. Let's do it.
Who was the
I'm here
dude
for it.
that
Let's
did
go.
the neck roll? Was that Steve Grogan?
Steve
Remember
Grogan.
that? Oh,
I think he had the neck thing as a
yes.
kid.
There was a few quarterbacks that used to rock that. Yeah.
Bring it back.
I don't think it's cool enough today. I mean, shoot, the players show up wearing really pretty blouses pre-game. It's a different game today. I mean, it's different today compared to how it used to be. So
Still a
I
little
don't
bit.
think they would wear that. It isn't cool enough.
So-
we got Orlando mentioning Walter Payton. I'm gonna get another one in. I'm gonna get another one in. There we go.
Ah, yeah. Mine's up over there if you need
It's
me
in
to
there.
get it.
That's yeah.
Oh yeah.
Running back
Sweetness.
cards in vintage football, man. There are some, I know it's quarterbacks more in contemporary terms, but for me, when I think of some of my favorite vintage football cards, there's a whole lot of running backs in that list
Yeah.
for me.
Oh yeah, 70s especially because you're talking about, like you said, Walter Payton, O.J. Simpson, Tony Dorsett, Earl Campbell,
Franco
Miguel
Harris,
Sayers. I mean, it was loaded.
Somebody mentioned John
70s had,
Riggins.
I'll give a
Riggins.
shout.
yeah.
Randy White, 2-time All-American, University of Maryland, no big deal.
There
There
you
you
go. Represent Bart.
There you go.
Yeah, 70s had some awesome running backs. If anything, I think it was heavier running backs than probably quarterbacks.
The bell
Agreed.
count was a lot more popular back then.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm a big backs guy as well, especially those guys who just got every damn carry. Those were. It's funny because I like middle linebackers because I think sometimes that's where my mentality is. I like running backs because it's the opposite of what I would be good at. You know, the skill and everything, that how quick and dodgy and everything they are, you know, Barry Sanders like or something like that. I just am always so impressed with it because it's
Yeah.
I don't see myself in them at all, and it's just that much more impressive to me.
Yeah.
What about Larry Zonka?
What's that?
Larry Zonka.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Single bar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a beast. He was a
Yep.
beast.
So we were kind of talking about it not being what it was before. Why do you think the NFL doesn't promote it? Like they used to have like ESPN Classic that would show old games like from the 50s and 60s. We don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
Do you think that's intentional on the NFL to kind of hide it?
I mean, I think honestly, I think how like the game is nowadays, it's more like flashier.
hmm
I mean, back in the day, it was more like, you know, shoot grit, and just like, you know, like the game was a lot of running, and I think nowadays it's a lot of passing and just really big plays. You know what I mean? So it changed a lot.
I think part of the issue is I think with NFL history, a lot of it sort of begins with the Super Bowl era because the Super Bowl is this monumental event in sports and actually just in America in general, right? Super Bowl Sunday is sort of a de facto holiday at this point, right? So you get, I think the NFL does an okay job of promoting people, you know, starting in the mid 60s onward. There's a little bit more of that. But it's really pre-Super Bowl era where I feel like we just lose guys completely. Like how often do you hear people talk about like Raymond Berry or Marion Motley, like you said, Barton, Norm Van Brocklin? Where is he at? Where are some of these guys? You know, aside from maybe, you know, like an Otto Graham who started to get talked about a bit more because Brady equaled his record for championship wins a few years back. Other than that, a lot of those pre-Super Bowl guys just get completely lost, which is a shame because there's some great stories and some great players from that time period. So I don't know. I think maybe it's a little bit in some ways, and this, I mean, obviously I'm speculating, but it seems like maybe there's a little bit of Super Bowl tunnel vision as to where I don't think the NFL goes back far enough to bring out the stories of some of those pre-Super Bowl era guys.
Oh, I agree with that 100%. They just, you know, it is what it is. You know, you're trying to get the viewers, you're trying to get the marketing guys playing commercials or whatever. And, you know, I guess the 12-year-old me, you know, watching those things didn't pay those big channels and stuff like that. I don't know about you guys, but I grew up watching NFL films on repeat nonstop, and they just don't
Yeah,
put the.
I did too.
That's what I did when I stayed home from school. Those were my sick days. I sat there and watched that 58 Giants Colts game, you know, some of these all-time great games. I mean, that's what I did when I stayed home sick from school.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching, you know, Hank Stram matriculate the ball downfield and all those. You know, I guess it just doesn't sell the ad space like it used to. They find different things and they do that. But I think all the sports definitely suffer that recency bias that you kind of mentioned there. You know, this, whether it's a Super Bowl era or whatever, you know, comparative statistics, same number of games, all of those types of things has led us to forget in large order those guys. Because yeah, the Otto Grahams and the Bart Starrs and the numbers of championships that they put up, you know, were completely forgotten forever until, you know, Tom Brady starts tying those records. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, oh yeah, by the way, you know, once he wins this guy will even exist less. You know what I mean? When these guys were just completely forgotten about because we act like those championships don't exist. Right? You know, we gotta. banner from the 50s a little more often in the stadium or something like that.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think baseball does a better job of actually preserving like their history, because Cobb, Gehrig, Ruth. I mean, all these players, and football has great players also. I mean, Grange and Dutch Clark, Sammy Ball, like, I mean, tons of them, but there just isn't like the same appreciation, which if you're actually collecting like the cards is actually kind of good, because
100%.
if you try to get Cobb or Ruth or Gehrig, you're paying over $2,000. You know what I mean? Whereas, on like the football side of it, I mean, aside from Grange or Thorpe, everything else is pretty reasonable. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You bring up a good point there. Obviously baseball promoted their stars in a much different way than football did, but I think that was the point, right? Football is a much more of a team sport, where in baseball you do have that, the spotlight on the guy in the batter's box or on the mound, and you can you more readily create that star, where football doesn't promote that stuff. Hockey still struggles with that, right? They're trying to create stars out of guys that don't want to be in front of the camera and stuff, because that's not the way the team does things. And football is a lot of that now. I'm sure NFL has been pushing. We need the star power. We need this. It's good for the sport and everything. But in the early days, nobody was promoting themselves like a Babe Ruth was.
Correct.
But I think too, right, that baseball has the advantage as to where, like, you can't go back in time and make, NFL football popular in American culture in the 40s and 50s and 60s and whatnot. Baseball has sort of this unique position where it's kind of interwoven with American history in a sense, right? Like guys like Jackie Robinson, Babe Ruth, these guys just aren't in sports books. These are in actual history books you read in school, right? These were important figures for their time in American history. So I think that helps baseball a little bit too. But yeah, what football? Well, there's things that the NFL can do, I think, to overcome that a little bit, maybe just in terms of hyping up some of these pre-Super Bowl guys. But I think baseball has a distinct advantage of being interwoven into American history in a way that I just don't think football is.
Yeah, I agree. And since we are talking baseball, Jeremy gave the green light to show different sports.
100%.
Why not show some baseball cards? Sorry, Justin. So where should we start, right?
Wherever you want.
I'm going to be honest. I wasn't very good at baseball. I'm very athletic. I'm quick. I can catch a baseball, but I can't hit a baseball to save my life. So needless to say, playing it, I don't like it. I love the history of like the sport. So, I mean, you can go Hank Aaron, I know, right? This is my time to shine, guys. Football, I didn't bring enough, but baseball, I got y'all.
Wait, and I was getting accused of manipulating to show cards earlier.
Hey, this is my moment, Justin. I mean, shoot, Joe DiMaggio with his hitting record. I mean, Ted Williams.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, like there's just great cards. I mean, Mays, Mantle, you know what I mean? History of it, especially if you go pre-1920s, and if you really look into like the players and everything, it's just really interesting. You know what I mean? Like the guys had regular jobs, and I mean, shoot, playing pro sports was a grind, literally a grind. I mean, shoot, they traveled on trains. I mean, hotels, played multiple games. I mean, had jobs. I mean, off season. Yeah, I mean, it's just really cool.
Hey, I love baseball cards I love seeing. Sorry, Jeremy. Sorry, I jumped in too quick.
Do you have any Detroit Tiger cards to show?
Who?
And I love baseball cards, and I wish I had more to show, but I always tell people the same thing. I have two goals in this hobby: have fun while building an amazing collection and not get divorced. Starting to jump into vintage baseball might jeopardize that second one. So that's what I love.
Yeah,
about
it's
football.
Expensive.
It's expensive, and that's what I love about football, right? Is one thing that I kind of realize about myself is I like owning cards that I think are iconic. This vintage pursuit to me, I mean, and we all sit here and talk about it. So I'm among my people here. I'm among fellow history nerds, right? I love history, and I love holding something in my hand that feels historical. And those cards to me are the ones that are a little more iconic, a little more recognizable. And that's something that, in football, I'm able to obtain those for a budget that makes sense to me. In baseball, I would have a very hard time doing it. Now, Jason's opened up the rabbit hole. So I'm just going to go down it just a little bit here and say that when I do want something more rare and I want to dabble in pre-war, I do collect boxing. And listen, Jeremy opened the door for this, but I did bring a Jack Johnson card, my favorite one in my collection. A 1977 E77 1910 American Caramel Jack Johnson, first African-American heavyweight champ. So that was kind of my way of getting in touch with some of that pre-war history in cards, was going into boxing. Because baseball, I love looking at what you guys have and other people on YouTube too. But yeah, it's just, it is a rabbit hole that I'm afraid to go down.
Yeah, it's a little bit pricey. I will say this though. Jackie Robinson, he deserves all of the respect that he gets, but I'm going to tell you something. Jack Johnson is underappreciated. What he did in his time, I mean, a long time before Jackie, was very brave, very bold, and he did things his way. I mean, if you look into his story and what he, accomplished, he was the man. You know what I mean? So, I also have a, Jack Johnson, but I don't have it out.
You sold
it's in a display. But, he was a beast, man. And I greatly, appreciate, shoot. Like he was good, man. He was something else. So, I agree.
We have a request in the chat. Did you see it, Jeremy, for some 48 Leafs?
I remember.
Which sport?
Football.
Oh gosh,
Jason's ready.
Those are at the top. I have to get the ladder.
I can work out here. I got my Sling and Sammy. There you go.
There you go.
Ooh,
yeah,
we match again. Jeremy and I collect similar types of things. We try to go for those. I feel like nice eye appeal, lower grades.
Yeah.
What else? Do I have here?
It's the only way I can afford them.
Me and Bart have them too, but mine are up there, and Bart's are probably in a box somewhere hiding.
I'll throw this one up there and throw it out to the commission of the YouTube Sports Card Football Card Hall of Fame here.
Yes, sir. Bobby Lane.
Yeah, this is the one I'm hoping gets in. I voted for it, I think, the last 2 years, and this is the one on the ballot that I'm most hoping gets in this year. He is still the greatest Lions quarterback ever, which I don't know what that says about our franchise, but nonetheless, love that one. And this is, I have this in a minimum size not met, but this 48 Leaf Bednarik. When you talk about NFL films, my favorite guy to listen to on there was Chuck Bednarik. You ever see some interviews with him? This dude is insane. His fingers are all like this. They're all like, they've been stepped. Yeah, he's like Frankenstein or something. And the stuff he says is just crazy. Like, man, I miss that. Chuck Bednarik interviews used to be wild.
I have that 48 Leaf Bednarik in a 0 size, Matt.
Zero size? We probably all have it. We just don't have it handy.
Yeah.
Mine's up, up in the display too. So
yeah, I always keep that one handy.
Card go. Got one of these? Yeah, I got one of those. We got up differently next time. We'll all just see if we can all get 4 of a kind.
Exactly. Leafs though, shoot, Steve Van Buren too. He was awesome. Running back wise, he was a beast, man.
First got to go back to the season.
Was he really?
No. That's Joe Perry. First guy to get 1,000 yards.
Thought that was Beatty Feathers.
What am I?
Oh, that's disputed.
He's got one of those records in between. I'm gonna jack it up. Oh, he was the first one twice, but they weren't consecutive. Then Joe Perry came.
Oh, wait. Did you say Joe Perry? Joe the Jet right there, 1950 Bowman, Joe Perry.
Hold on, Joe Perry.
There we go.
Joe Perry, let's do it.
There we go. Let's go. First African American to win NFL MVP, if I'm remembering correctly.
That might
Is
be
he?
right, actually.
I think so. To win an MVP, I think so, right?
He didn't.
Oh,
His heyday, they weren't quite doing. He's in them.
were they doing it?
I don't think he's got one.
I don't know.
Yeah, 1954. I Googled real quick.
I didn't know that. Then I'm gonna have to Google too.
That's what I could have swore on that, but yeah, I was almost certain. Yep, he was in 1954.
Mike
Well,
Tyson.
There was a lot of institutions that gave out MVPs back then too.
Who's got the
Yeah.
Mike Tyson Panini?
I don't have the like that one. I have the 87 question of sport.
I do not own a Tyson yet, but that is on my boxing want list. That 86 Panini. That is a pricey boxing card. That is one of the That is one of the more expensive non-Jack Johnson boxing cards, or non-Jack Johnson, non-John L. Sullivan boxing cards you'll come across.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
So Bart, you collect a lot of modern too, right?
Yeah, I collect it all. I mean, I have a crap ton of vintage, and I focus on that. But and if there's ever like the two going at it, the vintage is going to win that game. But I like to collect the modern. I like to stay connected with the sports that are happening, and then it keeps me going, watching the games and everything like that.
Okay.
Definitely, I collect it all. I'm not gonna lie.
Who's your favorite modern player to collect? I'm curious.
Well, I play it safe on that regard, right? Like we all know that it's very easy to collect the Hall of Famers because they can't really take that away from. And so the modern's a little bit tougher. So certainly, between years 4 and 6, typically, where they show the proper trajectory for Hall of Fame credentials. Football, like if a quarterback goes his first full 5 years without a Pro Bowl, you could probably start walking away. not investing too much. Baseball, you have to watch a little bit longer, but that's where I go. But I also I try not to overload and just collect up. I mean, I did that with a lot of 49ers, and I still do, right? Is pick up a bunch of one player. But for he's my team type of guys, I try not to go too deep. And even on 49 guys, I try to stay smart because I went all in on Jerry Rice. Still have a crap ton. I sell a couple here and there, but I hit like 1,500 graded cards of his and stuff like that, which is awesome. And but at the same time, the volume that actually is for storage and things like that. And then if I want to ever liquidate, when you get too many of a certain player, you're spacing out how much you're selling, because you're just competing against yourself. If you ever have to do that, right? I can't someday buy 1,500 Jerry Rice cards sell at one time. So I try to be smart about it. I got lucky with a couple of our big players recently where they only had small rookie runs and things like that. So I'll do it. But top 10 pick as whatever. If you get one on your team, please don't try to do his rookie set because it's not a good idea.
Yeah, I'm very limited with my modern. I'm playing the long game with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in baseball because his trajectory is really good. So I'm just holding what I have of his. Football, I collect Tua a little bit, but that's about all. And I'm not heavily invested in that. 95% of my money is going to the football and baseball.
I do modern San Francisco, and Very limited too. Yes. Okay, so we're doing basketball too now, Jeremy? Is that what you're saying?
There's a story. I track pulled this card as a kid, and I kept it.
Yeah.
I used to own that. I actually ended up, I had a lower grade copy of that. I traded it for a 2006 National Treasures 75th anniversary Jim Brown auto out of 25.
Wow.
It was an impulse move at the Sports Spectacular in Chicago a couple years back, but I was good with it. It's in an SGC 9, and I like that card more than the Bird Magic one. I think the Bird Magic ad was in like a Beckett 3 or something.
Does that one have a patch too?
That one, it is not one of the ones with a patch. No,
So cool.
there's.
That was a big,
like that. What was that?
That was a big year for National Treasures. That's a good year, good set.
The first year, that's actually my favorite modern set, like post 90s set of that 06 National Treasures. I have several from it. I have that brown. I also have a nice patch, prime patch Barry auto out of that, numbered 20. So that's one of my favorite modern cards. I did not bring that down, but yeah, I do a little bit of modern too, but it's mostly focused on either like Legends autos or Lions guys. Like, the only contemporary guys that are playing now that I really collect are, like Jameer Gibbs, Brian Branch, Amon-Ra St. Brown, guys like that. Just my team guys.
Yeah, I do the same thing, San Francisco. And it's very limited too. So.
For my team guys, I still, unless I'm really excited about it, I'll get a couple of Raws. But they have to kind of have like 2 Pro Bowl years or something like that for me to get into it. Otherwise, in a few short years, they didn't represent enough to, have staying power in the PC, right? If you're collecting for the long haul.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, I'm sure if you're in the Lions forums or something like that, I'm sure there's a lot of guys that they went crazy on them and they picked up all the cards and they just lost everything on it, right? And there's just too many examples of that. So to really put some money into it, buy that Contenders in a PSA 10 slab or something like that. I need that second Pro Bowl year, and then I know that they'll always be at least a pretty decently memorable, team guy.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's a good year if you're going to invest that much.
Yeah, honestly, with like the salary caps and just everything, it's hard to keep players long term. If you're lucky, you have them 3 to 4 years. So that's what you hope on. You know what I mean? Whenever their rookie, like the rookie contract's up, most of the time, they try to chase like the money and end up leaving. So it's hard to, try to put a lot of money into somebody who's only with us a short time.
Yeah, that might be gone in 4 years. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
I look forward to those 2 Pro Bowls, but it's really like, what happens at year 5? Do we re-sign the guy? And then, well, if he's going to spend his first 8-9 years with the team, like, all right, we got something here.
Oh yeah.
I agree. What I'm willing to collect and how nice of a card of that person I'm willing to collect.
So we're talking about modern a little bit, and modern, there's a lot of numbered cards, a lot of 101s now and all that. When it comes to vintage, what do you consider scarce and what do you consider rare?
That's a really good question.
I'll say this. I love rarity, and everybody chases rookies. My sweet spot is the XRCs. So and I just have these handies. So like the Bob Cousy rookie is 1957. And like this is like the Burke Ross, and it's actually 6 years prior to the actual rookie, so to speak. So just me personally, I love like the XRC type stuff, which you don't see every day.
If you're looking for number,
Do you consider anything under 100 to be scarce or rare? There's a difference between scarce and rare.
It depends which era. I mean, if you're talking about 90s on, I would say 100 or vintage.
What do you mean?
Yeah, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, if there's only 100, graded, that's pretty rare or scarce. Rare is probably if there's like 30 to like 40 graded. You know what I mean? I mean, like the regional stuff. Like, and once again, I didn't plan this because I thought we were going to show some basketball cards. So I just have these handy and stuff. I didn't bring enough football down. But I mean, like the cons. I mean, like I've also got like the football too. I just don't have it here. But I mean, like the regional issues, and like Blue Jacket, 66 specializes in regional issues. That stuff is rare. It was only, given out in certain areas, small doses. Most of it never survived. You know what I mean? So that's rare.
I'm a bigger fan of. I was going to say there's few things I'm a bigger fan of than when we just get to like invent definitions for terms within things. So you asked me this question a while ago, Jeremy, and I thought about it a bit before too. So my numbers, which are totally, arbitrary, right? Because we're just making things up here. But for me, rare is sub 50. Scarce is sub 100, and I invented a third category. Tough is sub 250. So if that's the graded population, but some of that fluctuates with demand, right? Because I think the pop count on that 48 leaf Bednarik that I showed a bit ago, wherever I put that now in this mess of things I have here, that is above 250, I believe. But the demand for that card is just so high because it is, obviously one of the ones for the PSA set registry. It is one of the big Hall of Fame rookies. It's a short print from that 48 leaf set. So I think there's some room for variation in there depending on demand, but 100%. I don't know. When you asked me that question, that's kind of what popped into my mind after thinking about it a minute.
Yeah. I don't think you can chisel it in stone, but it's kind of a good guideline to go by.
Yeah, you've got some exhibit fans too, Jeremy. You've been on a kick with those.
Yeah, like those are really cool.
Right here.
Exhibits are
there. You go.
That's
really
awesome.
hard. Awesome.
Yeah, I agree.
So Tittle was my dad's favorite player, so I'm automatically a Tittle fan because of that. I think we've talked about this in the past that. And we just talked about it earlier. Tittle's so underrated. That's like the Al Bundy card, right?
The Al Bundy card.
Yeah, that's what they call it. Yeah, it looks like them too.
100%. That's hilarious. I never had that connection drawn from me before.
Yeah, it's a tough one. That's a PSA 10 from 1959.
Oh my gosh.
Stop sharing it because every time I post it in like the PSA collectors group or something on Facebook, they're like Al Bundy. I'm like, that's not why I'm showing this card.
Yeah, you're trying to get some props in there.
I love 59 tops too. I think that's a good looking set. I think that is an underrated set.
Yeah, it screams 50.
I for sitting in a file readily available.
Nice.
That's pop 3 PSA 9, none higher.
I can't believe I somehow, of all the cards I brought down here, some of them I have no idea why they're here. I did not bring the 50 Bowman Wyatt Tittle, which I think is the most gorgeous vintage football card ever made.
Really?
Oh, man. Those are
man, Bart, did you bring like the Tittle box or what, man?
Boxes and the Tittle were looking good. So, because I pulled out like
those are all handy, huh?
vintage stuff. All right, well, I like some Tittle, so I pulled those out. But I'm not the biggest fan of 1950 cards. They're just not
Really?
I don't know what it is. Maybe I never came across them in my collecting, as much, right? So, but just the bigger cards. I need the at least the size of a 51.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
Hold
funny.
on, guys.
Now I have very nice 1950 cards because I have the Tittle in an 8.5, and I got
Wow.
I have all the in an 8.5 for the Niners, Nomalini and Joe Perry.
And no, that's my all-time favorite set, and I know that Scott, too, who does the Hall of Fame with you, I think that's his as well. I've heard him talk about that, so that's interesting because I love that set. What is your favorite set of all time? I'm curious.
Scott is a big he's big in the 1950s. He's just more in it than me, I guess. I don't have a massive favorite or whatever. The 50s I'm a big fan of 55 and 59. But I think it's weird because if you see the right card of any set in certain conditions, they all of a sudden will blow your mind on a set you didn't really like, right? Sometimes you just see them in a proper color, no bits of snow or something like that, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is way nicer, than I was thinking the set was or something. So, I still surprise myself. So I don't really like to bash too many cards or sets or anything like that. But I guess I do have some favorites. But like any collector, they are often tied to what players are in them and
Sure.
card in there. And so that YA Tittle, he's wearing green, as a 49ers guy. That's Colts green in 1950 for him. That doesn't draw me in as much. That's probably part of it, but it's also horizontal. I've never been a horizontal card person that much. Part of that's because of PSA slabs and how I like to display them, right? They're just difficult. That kind of just pushes me in other directions. And so I just got random biases that lead me down that path, too much on it. But I also like cards with more elements on them. I like logos. I like names, positions, and still the photo. And so when you have like 1950s, it's already tiny, and then there ain't a whole lot going on. It's just the picture. And there's some beauty to it, but you got to close one eye a little bit and link it to all of that beauty. Cards show you all those, like a 52 large, you get every element you want, and
I do love those
in the face.
Justin, I know yours is 1950 still, right?
Yeah, 50 Bowman for sure is my all-time favorite set. Just loaded with great cards, and I don't know. The size doesn't bother me. I think I do wish they were slightly larger, but I mean that set is just loaded, right? You got the Otto Graham rookie in there, which is I think an all-time card. You have I brought this down specifically because I'm making another plug for it. That this is the Marion Motley is my favorite vintage football card that I have not seen on the ballot for the Hall of Fame yet. Because I love this one from 50 Bowman too. And I think he's just so historically significant as one of the first 4 African-American players to reintegrate the NFL. And I like the trees in the background, and I don't know, just very nice cards. I don't have the 50 Bowman Baugh down, but I know you and I both, Jeremy, love that one. That's a great looking card. So
yeah, I go back and forth between 50 and 51.
That 50 Baugh is on my list. I do love that card. I'm not going to lie about it. Yeah, that one's on my list big time. I like the Motley. I just picked one of those up probably about 3 months ago. So I'm not saying I'm a hater back. Just back in stack.
Yeah, and that's fair. There's sets where I feel like that way too.
But the autogram and that Baugh, thankfully, are vertical cards instead of horizontal. So I still play that bias. But kind of going back to your scarce and rare, I never really tried to parse out the two words themselves. But I do dismiss some people's claims of rare at times, especially like when people say, it's a high number set or something like that. That one always killed me in like 72. People try to give you a card and it's that's a high number. Like, well, I'm looking at again, I'm a PSA guy, so that's kind of where my angle is a little bit. I wanted the slab. I'm building the set or on the registry or something like that. And it's like, well, if the pop on that slabbed high number is the exact same or higher as the low series, then it ain't rare to me, and I'm not paying no premiums for none of that stuff.
Yeah, me neither.
Sometimes they do that a little too much with the first card in the set or the last card in the set.
Yeah.
Those really only come to play if you're looking for the absolute, best, highest possible grade, and then okay, those are a little bit harder, maybe in some conditions or some center. But I never, bit the bullet on too many of those rare quotes that people try to throw at you.
Agreed. So you mentioned 72 tops, high numbers. I agree with you 100%. To me, that's manufactured scarcity. There's a story behind, one big dealer bought a majority of those cards back in the late 70s because they didn't sell. But if you look at the pocketbook, they are not hard to get. If I want a 72 top high number name at the action, there's probably 20 of them on eBay right now. That's not scarce at all. That's might as well be an 89 Pro set.
See, and honestly, whenever you say rarity, this is what I truly see as rarity. If you go on eBay and there's 0 listed, and there hasn't been any listed in a year or two, that's rare. That's a situation where every day you're crossing fingers, hoping one pops up. You don't even look at comps. You don't even care about grades. If it's trimmed, it's a placeholder until something else pops up. Like the bazookas, okay? Like these rarely ever pop up. So this is, hand cut. And obviously whoever cut it, compared to the Joe Perry, really didn't do a good job. It was probably a little kid. But when it pops, you either buy it or you might not see another one for who knows how long. Now, I haven't ever shown up at the Nationals, so I'm sure there's a whole bunch of really cool stuff there. But on eBay is how I do a lot of shopping. And if there isn't any on eBay and there hasn't been, that I see as rare.
Agreed.
And it just really changes it. I call those unicorns. Mm-hmm. When they pop, you try to buy it quicker than anybody else. You know what I mean?
That goes full circle back to your initial question, Jeremy, about how we collect and focus and stuff. And for me, one thing, I agree with Jason fully on that. If you see something pop up that you have not seen on eBay in a good long while, sometimes you just got to jump on stuff. And that's one thing with boxing. The one thing I really love about it is some of the stuff I really want. I have never seen a copy of it pop up, or I have seen, like last year at the National, there was a 1890 Mayo Cup plug Peter Jackson boxing card. It was sort of a forerunner to Jack Johnson in a sense. He never got a shot at the heavyweight title because John O'Sullivan wouldn't give him one because he's a black man. But after Jack Johnson won the title, he actually went and visited Peter Jackson's grave as kind of to pay homage to him because he was such a great earlier fighter. And he has an 1890 Mayo Cup plug card. I think between SGC and PSA, the pop is somewhere like 14. And I saw one at the National last year, and I have no idea what comps would be on that card. I did not try to look up comps. I'm like, I saw one. I'm going to buy it. I'd blown my budget by then, so it was like, you know what, But I don't. When I look at that card, I don't think, oh wow, I might have overpaid for it or whatever. I think, boy, I'm glad I did that when I could. So as long as it's not, jeopardizing the family or being irresponsible. Like when you see those cards, I think above all else, that's where I'm with you, Jason. You got to jump because you're not going to see one again for who knows how long.
Exactly. And honestly, I'll say this. I would be willing to actually sell everyday larger cards in order to try to actually purchase something rare. Because like a Jim Brown rookie or just anything in like that world, you can buy those any day. So, if what you are really chasing is expensive, And if you have to sell everyday stuff, I would do it. You know what I mean? You can always, try to rebuy everyday cards for a unicorn type card. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
For sure.
100%. Have you guys seen on REA the listing of the 1888 Beaters?
The one where it's like a quarter of the Beechers or something in existence or something like that. Yes, I have. I want that card
18 of
so
them.
badly. Yep, I want that card so badly, but it is just currently sitting a bit out of my price range, even in low grade. Do you have that one, Bart?
A Beecher, no. It never really caught my eye early on. The history didn't draw me to that card necessarily, and I found it a couple years ago, and then now it's just I can't compel myself to. I don't know. I think a one will probably set you back like $5,000 or something right
That's
now.
about right. Yeah, I think so.
I can't swallow that when there's still so many other cards that are higher on my priority list. When you can get 2, 3, 4 monsters for the same price point or something like that, I'm not gonna. He can't get Ty Cobb money out of me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a great point. I do that too. I always look at the price and then how attainable it is and what else I could buy for that money. Like you were just saying, I do that all the time. In the Beecher, as much as I want, there are things I want more than that.
Man, I'm jealous of Orlando right now. He had 2 at one point and still has one he's hanging on to. So I don't know. That card does catch my eye. I think, just 19th century cards in general that I see, maybe it's just the fact that I'm drawn to something that feels like it's just incredible. It still exists. I don't know what it is because obviously I know nothing about Beecher's career. Maybe one of you do, maybe somebody in the chat does. I don't. But I know that, there's something about that being the first football card. The card itself is so unusual looking that, I don't know. But yeah, $5,000. That is not a number that I am willing to pay. I'd have to sell some cards that I really, really enjoy in order to get to that point.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's going to happen.
I'd rather have a really nice 33 store over that for the same money.
No, I like the card, and as soon as I saw it, that one's just it's better than some of those Mayos that are just black and white because there's some early Yales and Harvard stuff like that football as well. But he's got the color. It's a great looking card and everything. If it was $1,000, I'd have owned one already, type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You're up in the 5 range. Having that connective football history to the larger collection, it's not going to make it for 5Gs or more. It's probably more now, right? I don't know. And if I don't know what's on REA, if they got 2s and 3s, then it's clearing 5 figures probably. PSA 5, oh geez.
Wow, that's awesome. Invented the wedge. I didn't know that.
Wow. Knowledge. I love it.
That's an awesome fact to know. I had no idea.
I didn't either.
But that is awesome. That's an amazing catch.
And so going back to the rare thing, because I collect probably a little bit differently. Sometimes Jason should send me, oh, look at this. And it's like, to me, sometimes I'm fully on the rare, not what I collect per se. Like he'll show me a matchbook or something like that. And I think they're really, but for the, like we say for this one, the price points or whatever. So I've always looked for rarity a little bit differently, part of the way because that's how I was building my collection at the time. I started out with, modern base cards and I was submitting them for myself and stuff. So I was creating what to me was rarity, but if it's a 1988 Topps card, but now it's Pop 1 or something like that because I got the grade. To me, that was a rarity in a different way. And so, a PSA 5 Beecher, I don't know what the total pop is. It ain't going to be big. But, maybe there's enough of them that they're not moving enough that it's kind of a rare card. But a PSA 5 and what that pop is and what's potentially higher than it, the echelon that it's on, it absolutely has to be rare and scarce, right? It's otherworldly from that. So I kind of look at the rarity and scarcity a little bit differently there from I look at pop reports and stuff a little bit for some of my cards. Because especially when, if I was doing like I did the team run 1948 to present for 49ers. And I had to have a reason, right? Like you couldn't just be like, hey, it's just every damn common card. So it was like, all right, to make it something a little bit more special, I went for what I considered rarity. And so I look at it from a little bit different way.
Yeah, see, honestly, I mean, like he said, we're different. I mean, I love like the regional stuff, the stuff that you don't ever see. I mean, honestly, I use social media because every day I see something I've never seen before. And yeah, I was in like the registry pretty heavy, specifically San Francisco, and I was building a whole bunch of like the team sets. And other than our Hall of Fame star players, I was collecting guys who never played or just I mean barely played, and I had boxes and boxes of stuff, and I was just like, I'm a San Francisco guy, but like this guy played maybe 2, 3 games for us. What am I doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now, like I said, I mean, like he said, I love rarity. I love unique items. I mean, like the conversation pieces. I mean, where you see something and it's like, what is that? I haven't ever seen that. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm doing a lot of research on exhibits right now. I'm putting a video together on it because there's so much disinformation and misinformation on exhibits. What I found out the other day is that YA Pickle has a yellow-green tint version of exhibits, which, as you were talking about earlier, if one ever pops on eBay, I've got to be ready to pounce because I haven't seen a sale of that in my research in years. They don't pop ever. So it's things like that really, really intrigue me lately. And the exhibits, tint colors, we don't know what years they were made, how many of them they are, what players had them. So I'm finding out something new every day about that set. But the fact that Kittle has at least 2 color variations really bothers me.
I will tell you this. I am a big YA guy, and there's a couple issues like the silvers, like the dairy issue, the bread for health issue.
Yeah.
And I know at least 2 or 3 other guys who are looking at eBay every day too. So, but those are like what I call unicorns. You never see them. I think 2 people who own them who won't sell them. And if it popped, you better be ready to spend whatever is the asking price, because if you don't, someone else will. And just as I'm sure, all of us have stories of a rare card popping up and you hesitate and you're thinking about it. And then an hour later you go back, it isn't there, and it kind of sold, and you're like, man, I should have bought it. You know what I mean?
I did that about 3 weeks ago with a 62 Cons Tarkenton. I hemmed it out, and it was like a half an hour. I'm like, all right, I'm just going to buy it, and it's gone.
Yeah, exactly. And that, like I said, is the true definition of rare, is when comps really don't even matter, and price is how bad do you want it? You know what I mean?
That's going to be me with the Tittle and the raw bread for health if I ever see one. Those are 2 very high on my want list.
But I feel like once they get in your collection, you're just so glad to have them, because it feels like such an accomplishment to have tracked one down that I don't know. For me, when I grab a card like that, I seldom sit there and think back on the price that it cost me. It really is just cards like that. It's just, once you get one, there's such a feeling of satisfaction of adding it to the collection.
Yeah, there's a hunt that goes along with it, right? And you finally got that trophy buck to put up on the wall or something. Yeah, there's no taking away from that. It's a great feeling.
Yeah. Well, and also, I mean, like, like he said, like about the, like the matchbooks too.
Mhm.
I do that. I mean,
I was
I
going to ask.
have the Nagurski. I have like the Dutch Clark. I have the 1939 and I think the 1941 Sammy Balls.
Wow.
And it's because like the rookie card is 1948, so the matchbook is 19. I want to say his rookie is 1938. I
Yeah, so
mean,
I'll have
it's
the Dixie lids that people consider his first card.
which one?
The Dixie lids.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, true.
So,
Yeah, so I mean, like that's just it isn't actually a card, but it is a representation of whoever it is. You know what I mean?
Yep.
so somehow you've mentioned Dutch Clark. I think he's come up 2 or 3 times now, and I know we're running out of time, so I'm going to make sure this gets on there. My first real Lions superstar right there. I'm going with the homer.
There we go. Alley oop,
There we go.
Justin. You just gotta slam dunk it in, man.
I feel like that's good. So we got the dunk there. We got Dutch. Yeah, there we go. Jason set me up for that. It's like he knew it was sitting there. He's like, this guy can't go on about the Lions and not have that Dutch sitting there somewhere. That is a great
Justin
set.
has all his big cards lined out, ready for the chance. I'm severely lacking on that point right now.
This is
You might
what
as well
happens when you
show
have
them
no
all,
agenda.
Justin.
When there's no agenda, I'm just ready to go. So just
Yeah.
everything that could possibly come up, except somehow the 50 Bowman YA title. I have no idea why I wouldn't have snagged that one.
Yeah.
But there we go. There we go.
There you go.
It's got to come
There
out
you
there.
go.
That is a gorgeous card. I love that sky in the background.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. We all have that card. I would say that I would be bragging with a PSA 7, but Bart has an 8.5, so he kind of craps all over my 7.
How many are higher than that, Bart? That's got to be. There can't be many.
So it's pop 2 with 3 higher.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I still don't know how, because when I got it, it was pop 1 with 2 higher. So I don't know how somebody out of a shoebox or something found an 8.5. I've had probably 10, 12 years now or whatever. That's the wildest part to me, is somebody just got a 9 later on after that.
Yeah, that's incredible.
9s go up for sale, or the other 8.5, so they're in private collections or whatever. But yeah, that was the first big boy card I got when I got heavy back into collecting. It was like a good thresholds for me. I spent this is what, 2013, something like that. I spent $2,100 on that card.
Steal.
Those are sure, but even then, like I was having heart palpitations, because before that, my 48 Nomalini was the only other big one, and that was like 900 something. So to cross the 1,000 and then double it, like that was, I think we probably all remember those big milestones where you're back and also sweating at the same time.
That was mine. My first,
I will say this.
card.
Hey, honestly, I will say this. I miss like the pre-COVID prices.
Oh God!
It was, man. You could get the Babe Ruths, like the Gaudis, for like
They were 2,000,
maybe 1,200. I mean, it was a lot different. Ty Cobb's 1,000. I mean, I bought my PSA 7 YA rookie for I think 300. Yeah, I mean, it was just a lot different back then, and now I mean everything is over crazy prices. But
Yeah, and I think the baseline has been adjusted, right? That we're never going to see those prices again,
because people aren't willing to part with them for that, and so a lot of times they listed at bins, you know, just they don't sell, but like nobody's willing to undercut themselves or anything like that. And so they just will hold it instead. So it's, but I have a lot of cards on my list that still haven't come around to, just because I know so well what they used to be. And, you know, it's just like, oh, that's not a rare card, so I don't need to prioritize it. Right. But now the point's so high and still not rare at all. And you're just like, golly, man, you know, I wish I'd have gotten it, but you can't talk yourself into some of those price points.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
One the other day, I jump into baseball real for 2 seconds there. I like the All-Star Cup cards for Topps, and the 1990 Topps Ken Griffey All-Star Cup, not rare at all. And PSA, $500 now.
Wow,
that's a $35 card. What are we doing?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I
will say this though. As a collector, you go through these plateaus. So like when I jumped back in, I was buying everything raw and you just want a copy of it. And you break $100. Okay, wow. That's a lot of money. And you break 200 and 300, 500. Once you break 1,000, it's like, but then it gets easier and it gets easier. And I mean, you know, hopefully my wife doesn't watch this, but I've broken $1,000 barrier a lot. I think the most I've ever spent was like $2,400. And that's a lot of money. I mean, for somebody who doesn't have wealth or whatever you want to call it, that's I mean, like a vacation for the family, so to speak, you know. But like I said, it gets easier, but you know, I think 1,000 is about as high as I want to be, except for special cards. I mean, like a Lou Gehrig, a Satchel Paige rookie, Jackie Robinson rookie type stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
John,
John,
we got a good question here.
Do you guys have any idea for growing the hobby? Just got back into it and can't believe the looks I get when I walk in the local card shops. Treated like a freak by the shiny card lenders.
I would say this, and this is very cliche. You buy what you like, but also know the values and try to get the best bang for your buck. When I got in, like I said, I just wanted one. And then over time, you learn, had I spent a little bit more, I could have got a nicer copy of it. You know what I mean?
100%.
And just so, you know, whatever like the budget is, I would try to get the best version of just whatever it is. And yeah.
So for growing the hobby generally, I wonder, so I guess I read the question a little different. Any ideas for like growing the vintage portion of the hobby? I think that, you know, if I'm interpreting the question correctly, if I'm not, this will just be a tangent. It is what
we don't do those here.
But I think this has been an hour and 33-minute tangent mostly, but which I'm all here for every day, all day. But I think one thing that I would say as vintage collectors, right, if we're talking about on an individual level, what can we do? I mean, you know, we're not big, you know, people that are big promoters or influencers or anything like that. But on a micro level, one thing that I've found, because I'm sort of, and maybe you guys are too, I'm at that point in life where I'm 41 years old. So I have hobby friends that are 23 and I have hobby friends that are 75. So one thing I notice across kind of talking to people in different areas that collect different types of cards is modern collectors tend to view vintage collectors sometimes as being a little bit stuffy or a little bit not receptive to new things, or maybe a little bit, you know, maybe collecting in a way that's a bit dated. And I think that, one thing, and maybe not as inclusive, maybe we like to keep our thing and it's not something where new people can easily enter. I think just on an individual level, when I interact with modern collectors, I try to be very welcoming. I try to, really kind of explain to them how I collect the way I do. And one thing I think with vintage that intimidated me a bit at first when I was kind of getting back into it was the fact that you see, and there's nothing wrong with this, like people like Bart has the 8.5 YA tittle and everything like that. And one of the impressions I think I initially got is, wow, I am not going to be able to afford these high grade cards. But I think letting people know that are, interested in this space or maybe outside this space that, hey, buy the card in a 1, buy it in a 2. It's just cool to have it. And guess what? People with these massive collections, they're going to tell you, hey, that's really cool that you have the card. It's, there aren't many people in the hobby. People show off their nice cards because they like to show cards because they're collectors most of the time, right? There aren't really, in reality, when you get to know people in the vintage space, a whole lot of people that are just trying to be exclusive or anything like that. So I think just on a level when we interact with modern collectors of trying to really communicate that point and attract them to what we do, I think that that's a big part of it too. Though Orlando mentions, and you guys have too, that vintage football is undervalued. Maybe part of it is we should keep like the modern collectors out for a while till we buy up everything we want and then bring them in so we can keep getting our cards at a reasonable price. Because I'm already starting to see some of this stuff, like pre-war football is more expensive now than it was a year ago. I feel like the Chickles and the Sport Kings and stuff. And so it's already kind of starting to go that way.
Yeah, there's a lot there that you just threw out there. I will say, with like the high grades and other things like that, I would say that the best way to have a nice collection is just collect for a really long time and get high grades at low cost, and then all of a sudden it's some crazy major card later, which is awesome, right? If you're able to hold on to it, those shiny card guys, don't feel bad because most of them will be gone next year when you go back to the store, because if you're going to be modern, you at least got to balance yourself with, like buying. I got into vintage and cards in general, I thought, because it's like buying bonds, right? Like it's not really going to go down if you buy, you're at least reasonably smart with it, And so why have it sitting in the bank when I could have a nice, pretty, old with the story and everything else to go along with it or whatever. But that modern stuff, it can get you real fast. And so a lot of those guys don't stick around. So don't let them look down upon you, even if they're in mass at the hobby shop, because you'll come back next time and you'll be the only one left, or maybe only one of them out of that group is going to survive it or whatever. Growing it, that's a tough one. Things like this hopefully do that. Things like the Football Card Hall of Fame hopefully do that. But I think we could all say that while we love sharing the hobby, with each other in these moments, it can also be largely a solo endeavor. So it's not something that somebody can just, knock on your door and be like, hey, you want to collect with me or something either. You got to have probably a smidge of OCD, if not a lot of OCD or something. For some folks, the collector bug is it's an actual bug. Like my dad's a coin collector, but he's got a collecting bug in it too, And those types of things, they get passed on to us a little bit. So growing's tough. And I don't know if we need 100 bros with us all the time and collecting, but if we got 4 or 5 good ones or, a dozen good ones, that's more enriching than anything. So we don't need to grow it too fast because then they'll suck up all the cards too.
Right. Keep it at bay for a little bit until we pick up a few more things maybe.
Yeah, I agree completely. I agree. Also, I would say this also, learn. As a collector, if you learn, if you research whatever it is that you like, you'll benefit. You know what I mean? So I would definitely research either through social media or just, whatever other source. And then also hobby shops. I live in Houston, so you would kind of think Houston has a lot of really good hobby shops. We don't. It's so like most of the buying I do is either through social media or I mean, eBay, you know, I mean, I try to go to the shops also, and it's a majority modern stuff, and it is overpriced, overproduced, overhyped, in my opinion. I think some of it is cool, but I'm not going to spend what they are asking for. So, you know, if like the hobby shops that you are going to aren't welcoming, or I mean, if like they don't have what you want, I would try to go through, I mean, either social media, eBay. I mean, like there's, you know, somewhere else that uh, you can shop. You know what I mean?
Yeah, eBay, Fanatics Collect, Heritage
Mhm.
Auctions, all those places. Yep.
I'll still say, support your LCS as best you can. I struggle going into hobby shops and actually buying anything because I'm super particular. I'm usually looking for certain things. The way we collect, the four of us, largely, they're not going to make a whole lot of profit on what we're trying to buy there. So that's why they have the bright and shiny things or whatever, because there's the profit margins are in that. We got to respect that a little bit too. Anytime I go in there, I at least try to buy some supplies and things like that, and you know, I try to throw a couple bucks at some loose cards or something, but that's a little bit tough. But you can also, make those relationships. Those guys will, when those few things that you are looking for come across that, that dealer's eyes or something. If he remembers you because you visit him and pay attention or whatever, he'll snatch them up and put them aside for you too.
Yeah, that's a great point. Local card shops, people could bring their collections in, right? The shop owner might not want them, but knows that you do. So it's a great point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Wow, we hit an hour and 40 minutes. That's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty impressive for anybody who's made it with us this long.
Two people or what?
Hey, this has been a blast. I've enjoyed every minute of it. This has been a
Oh
lot of
yeah,
fun.
so have I. So have I. Yeah, I agree.
So the last bit before we break out of here, like, do you each have one card you're trying to acquire above any other? Is there one that just stands out to you that you don't have?
That's
Are
tough.
we looking? Do you want it to be confined to? Well, I'll give a vintage football, and I'll give in
Just
general.
anything, really. Anything.
The card I'm looking for most right now that I'd like to pick up is 1910, 1911 Jack Johnson Turkey Red. These are, I don't have my Sam Langford Turkey Red out here, but they also have baseball. They have Ty Cobbs in that set. Yeah, they're huge. Yeah, that's why I want to show them. They're basically like picture frames when you hold them up. And I know that's not for everybody, but I'm a big fan of that set for the boxers. I have the Sam Langford, who's one of my guys. I want the Jack Johnson, hoping for that at the National. And then 1950 Joe Paterno Feltback is a realistic card. I mean, obviously there's the 35 Chickle Nagurski or the Beach that are on my list, but I'm not those aren't coming along anytime soon. But the 50 Feltback Joe Paterno is one that I'd like to pick up. It was the 35 Chickle Rockney for the longest time, but I got that about a month ago. So now it's on to Paterno.
Nice. That Turkey Red, I think that's a top 250 card of all time, at least in the PSA registry and stuff like that. That's pretty.
Oh, is it really?
Up there? The size of that one always thwarted me a little bit.
Huge.
Baseball has those too, and they are just absolutely massive. The slabs
Those
are,
are the cabinets.
they got
Cabinet.
plastic. It's
like a photo you'd put on the wall. Basically, it's massive.
Yeah, really cool though.
Yeah, I love
really
them.
Cool art.
Yeah, the Jack Johnson's a cool shot too. So I'm hoping at the National I can snag one.
Well, then I guess I'll probably go next. Football wise, Y.A. Tittle, Silvers, like the dairy card, and also the bread for health. Non-football Ruth. I regret not trying to buy a Ruth years ago. I want a caramel, I believe 1922, and that's probably between $7,000 and probably $10,000. So needless to say, that'll probably be the last card I buy. That'll be on a layaway plan, and that'll be the only card I buy that year. But yeah,
PayPal paying for?
huh?
The PayPal paying for?
Nah, I don't think that's more like a paying 20 situation right there. It'll be pricey, but I mean, like he's a huge person in sports shoot, general, you know what I mean? And yeah, I mean, like that's what I want. So eventually I will try to get that one too. So
I wish I had a good answer. I don't know if I do. I think some of those, if it's ultra rare or something to those levels, and I know the price point tagged to it, I've written certain ones off already. Just because, some price points, well, even if I could do it, I don't like exercising the level of patience it takes to do that. And then the opportunity cost, you tell me this card, I'd love a Gaudy Babe Ruth. I like that caramel way more, but that one doesn't even seem as reasonable. But any of those, like a 10 grand card, I could find 5 or 6, 1,500 that I'd rather have. I do like quantity with my quality in the collection. So I can't say that I'm looking for anything as far as you guys are kind of pointing out the rarity side of it. To me, what I look for, the rare piece that I'm looking for is a grade matching with a price point. Oh, it's rare that it goes for that. All right, I need to spring into action, right? Because I'm still, I did a massive sell-off at the peak, the absolute peak. I did well. But I'm still trying to build back a lot of that stuff. And so I still am going after a lot of mainstream rookies. So there's not rarity there. The real rarity is just, do I get a nicely centered one or the collector level grade or something that I'm looking for the price point? Those are the rare pieces. So the absolute rarity that you guys are talking about. I don't have anything on my list right now. But thankfully, I've got all the old football. I kept all of that. Because I knew I couldn't call myself the collector that I thought I was if I sold all that type of stuff off. My Nagurski and things like that are still in the PC, so I have to go hunting with it. Nice. I don't have right now.
That's awesome. Those are some big ones. Mine. Well, I guess the Bread for Health too or very high on my list. Whether they even become available, something more attainable would be the 4080, the Nobolini, or American. And I still don't have 33 Thorpe. A couple of eBay recently, but they've been not what I'm looking for. So I'll just be patient.
Yeah, they've had a couple of those 33 Thorpe. So like, there's some rough ones.
Yeah, there was.
Yeah, I'm a proud owner of one of those rough ones, but I am nevertheless an owner of a card. But it is not in the best shape. But I mean, to get even a nice one, you're looking now at about $1,200, $1,500. I mean, I got this one
easy.
This was $750. So it's like at that price point, you know what? I'm good with it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Those ones where like if you do what you got to do to get into that place, right?
Exactly.
For some of the bigger ones, I got lucky with that one. I bought it off a buddy. He put me on a payment plan. Anyway, it wasn't that much, but I got 4 cards. There were some 33s and 35s and stuff for like $1,150. In the mix was a 4.5 of that 33 Thorpe.
Awesome.
It's a beauty, and I didn't respect it as much at the time, and now I see some of these prices. I'm like, oh man, I lucked out.
For sure.
I'll say
16-ish or something like that, 2015 maybe. So that's why I always say, the best way to have a good collection is to collect for a long time, and then
very true.
Pick 1 or 2 good ones up, and each year you could I could have done better. I missed out on these, but all of a sudden you start stacking years up, and then those one or two monsters that you did manage to get. You pile of them, within a decade or so, and we all still got some, a decade or two of collecting ahead of us. So there's going to be some pretty significant collectors.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, I appreciate you hanging out for almost 2 hours. That's amazing. 2 hours without a script. All right.
Oh, this was a blast, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'd love
I
to do it
agree.
again
I agree.
sometime.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. Right, gentlemen, take care. Have a great weekend and stay in touch. We'll do this again.
Yeah.
Sounds great, man.
Okay.
Take care,
Yep.
everybody.
Yep.
Bye, guys.
Okay. Bye.